What's going on, guys? My name is Brendan. This is the Franchise Tag Fantasy Football Podcast. Week 11 is officially in the books. We're going to get it started right here. So the first game we have is the Cowboys going into Carolina. As we expected, it was just another beatdown. Dallas can definitely beat up on the trash cans in the league, 33-10. Again, so the stats weren't as inflated as they were last week against the Giants. Dak just had an okay game. Again, game script wasn't really needed nor necessary. 25-38 for 189 yards, 2 touchdowns. Only gets you 16 points, but again, it was just so lopsided. It wasn't really needed. Cooper Rush came into the game just how bad it was. He basically did whatever he needed to do just to finish the game out. Tony Pollard finally saw the end zone. It was a miracle. It's been so long for all the Tony Pollard owners. It was just nice to see him finally get back there since week 1. 12 carries, 61 yards, a touchdown, 4 receptions, 19 yards. Not a big game for CD, but again, at least he got you a touchdown, 38 yards and a tug. So you can't complain about that in that aspect of it. None of the receivers behind CD were even relevant. Brandon Cooks, 3 catches, 42 yards. Michael Gallup, 3 catches, 31 yards. Again, it was just so lopsided. Carolina just is very careless with the ball for obvious reasons. It happens. And the tight ends, Jake Ferguson was, you could say, a letdown in the aspect of it because Luke Schoonmaker, my apologies, was the one that got the touchdown. 2 receptions, 23 yards and a tug, while Jake Ferguson just had 3 receptions for 32 yards. Carolina side, again, he had a pick for Bryce Young. He had a fumble lost. It's really unfortunate. You can see it on the Carolina side. They're lost. They're unsure what's going on. I wouldn't be surprised if Frank gets the boot tomorrow morning. They just don't look like they're a complete NFL team at the moment. Chuba Hubbard was irrelevant. 10 carries, 57 yards with a couple receptions. Miles Sanders got 11 carries for 50 yards. So again, they try to get their backs going. And just, again, nothing you can do. Dallas is a pretty good defense. Adam Thielen, though, actually had a pretty much a bounce back game from what we've seen for the past couple weeks. 8 catches for 74 yards. As you can see for the previous weeks, it was kind of a letdown spot with just 5 catches, 29, and 6 for 42. But just he was a little more utilized. They were down a lot, so they had to throw a lot. It just led to Carolina not putting up any points. Nothing really to take away from this game. I think Dallas is still a very competent offense, and I think they'll continue to roll. And I think Carolina is going to be the worst team in the NFL. With being 1-9, looking at their schedule, they might get a win in one of the divisional games, just how the divisional games go, but I just don't see them getting more than 2 wins. Next game, definitely the definition of a divisional grunge game, you could say. Pittsburgh 10, Cleveland 13. I don't know what's going on the Pittsburgh side. Najee Harris spoke out today saying a lot of the guys are just really confused at what's going on. Kenny Pickett looked bad. I mean, he hasn't looked good all season. But again, Cleveland defense is phenomenal, but just not getting anything going on the offensive side. Kenny Pickett, 15 for 28, 106 yards and 4 carries for 9 yards. Jaylen Warren finally got the official start today, and he saved your day. He saved a lot of us with the 1 carry for like a 75-yard run. But after that, he had 9 carries, 129 yards with a touchdown, a couple receptions in there. Najee did get more carries against him. He had 12 for 35. And then the receivers, man, it is frustrating with this receiving corps from the Steelers. And I don't know what to do. George Pickens leads the group with the most yards. He had 4 catches, 38 yards. And then Deontay Johnson only had 2 catches for 16 yards. Freiermuth only saw 1 reception. Wasn't worth starting him. I really don't know what's going to happen in Pittsburgh. They're definitely in the hunt for the playoffs. They definitely need to make some adjustments, and I just don't know if they're going to do that in season with Canada. So I don't see it getting any better. And Pittsburgh just has a tendency to win these games 17-13, 14-10. Their defense is just enough, so gritty just to get these wins for them. So I don't know if it improves for the fantasy side of things for the Steelers. Cleveland side, so Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he played okay for his second start. Nothing crazy. 24 for 43, 165 yards. He did have 1 pick. He had a couple carries, though, which kept the momentum going on the Cleveland side, 3 for 20. Jerome Ford was, again, Kareem Hunt, all these guys, they both had the same amount of carries. Jerome went 12 for 31 and a touchdown, and Kareem Hunt went 12 for 36. So Jerome Ford is still, I think, it's the more valuable back to own. Obviously, with the goal line touchdown saves the day. And then receivers, again, it's really tough with the quarterback play they have in Cleveland. Elijah Moore led the team with 60 yards, so 6 for 60. Amari Cooper, again, it's going to be frustrating. I know you have to start him for where you drafted him and what he's been doing with the guys who have been throwing him the ball. It's just super frustrating. And then the tight end, David Njoku, is probably was the brighter spot of this. He definitely was able to hit his checkdowns. They did just sign Joe Flacco like right after this game ended for them. So I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, because they definitely have a defense that can just stop anybody at any time. So I'd be very curious to see what Joe Flacco does. If they do sign Joe Flacco, you can kind of be very short, quick throws. So I don't know what they'll do with all their weapons and everything else like that. Who becomes more valuable, who doesn't. On to the next game. Chicago goes into Detroit and they blow it at the end. For Chicago fans, I'm sure you're excited just because you had the lead and then you blew it. So this is exactly what you wanted for draft capital. Detroit came back, Jared Goff fashion here. I'll start with Chicago side. Justin Fields looked really good today. 18 carries for 104 yards first off, 16 for 23 with 169 yards and a touchdown. Justin Fields looked really good today, and he's not the reason why they lost. So, again, I don't know what Chicago's going to do on their side of the ball with the offensive play calling and everything else like that, but it's pretty frustrating. D'Onta Foreman did get injured in this game. He did come back, but he had 6 carries, 14 yards. Khalil Herbert, my apologies, 16 carries for 35 yards with 2 receptions in there, and then Roschon Johnson, 6 for 30. I would say, obviously, such limited snaps and everything else like that, but Roschon looked like the better back. I don't know what they're going to do next week. This is a backfield I really want to just avoid in general. Looks like they're just going to kind of mix all of them in like they said they were before the game. But DJ Moore with Justin Fields is great. It's good for fantasy football. 7 for 96 and a tug. No one else besides DJ Moore was utilized in the wide receivers. Darnell Mooney, Economist, St. Brown. None of the guys were all irrelevant. Nothing you want to worry about. Cole Kmet, unfortunately, was kind of a dud. 3 catches, 20 yards. Didn't really equivalent to anything what you're hoping for with starting him. But on to the Detroit side, Jared Goff had a terrible game. He did everything in his power to try to lose this game. He threw 3 picks. He was 23 for 35, 236 yards. He did have 2 touchdowns in a 2-point conversion, which kind of salvaged your day with starting him. But he had a really, really rough day against Chicago for some reason. Jahmyr Gibbs was the better utilized back because of his receiving work, which is they're finally starting to utilize what you expected for him when you drafted him. 8 carries, 36 yards and a touchdown, 6 for 59 for receiving. So, and then Dave Montgomery, again, I think you can start both these guys if you have them for whatever reason. 12 for 75 and a touchdown with 2 receptions in there. These guys, they're going to utilize both of them in their own ways, and it's going to actually be like what you kind of expected before the season started. And then again, Amon-Ra St. Brown is just a fringe top 5 receiver, 8 for 77 and a touchdown. Jameson Williams, though, finally found in the end zone. I don't know if this is a projection of what we'll see because they were down. It was a negative script, so they did have to throw more. But 2 for 44 and a touchdown. Only 3 targets again. Amon-Ra with 11. It's kind of hard to see if there's an actual lane for starting Jameson Williams going forward. Tight end wise, Sam Laporta, for being a rookie and everything else like that, it was very much a dud game because he's number 6 in the year. Where you took him, you expect tight end 1 production, just didn't happen today. 3 for 18 with a 2-point conversion, so it's unfortunate. But moving forward, no injuries from this game to really report. Besides D'Onta Foreman, they're going to see what happens with it going next week. On to the next game. This is a really frustrating ending for the Chargers because, again, Justin Herbert played phenomenal. This is one of those games where I know he gets gaslighted in the media for his record and everything else like that, but he can't control his guys from dropping the passes when they're literally right in their hands. Chargers 20, Green Bay 23. I'm going to start with the Chargers side. Herbert had a great game. 20 for 36, 260 touchdowns, 8 carries for 73 yards. He did everything in his power to try to get his guys a W, and it just didn't happen. This was a big letdown game, though, for Austin Eckler. He fumbled on the goal line, 10 carries, 64 yards, no real receiving work, 2 catches for 6 yards. I really don't know what's going on with the play calling. I figured when they hired the guy from Dallas, it'd be a lot faster paced and everything else like that. And he hasn't really utilized Austin Eckler as much for his receiving work, which is what he's better at. It's very interesting. And then Keenan Allen is just super productive as always. 10 for 116 and touchdown. He could have had 2 touchdowns had he not had one literally hit his hands and fell. And talk about another guy who's just been a complete bust. It's Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston had a game-winning touchdown in his hands, wide open lane, just couldn't hold it in and everything else like that. He has been an extreme bust. I really don't know what's going to go happen from here moving forward with him, because it's hard for Herbert to even trust the guy when it's wide open and you drop it. So I really don't know what to do. I expect Jalen Guyton, he didn't play this game, so I expect if he comes back, they will definitely utilize him more before they use Quentin Johnston. Tight end wise, random touchdown of the day goes to Stone Smart. He had 1 reception for 51 yards, a touchdown, which leads the group because Gerald Everett was injured today, so took away the touchdown. On to Green Bay side, Jordan Love had a really good game. Jordan Love had a really, really good game. 27 for 40, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns. He looked phenomenal. So I really don't know what they're going to do in Green Bay side because he's been so inconsistent, but when he's on, he looks really good. A.J. Dillon, as you can see, has more carries than Aaron Jones because Aaron Jones unfortunately got injured. He had a really awkward tackle with his knee. Not sure what the timeline is. They're saying it's not serious, but again, with it being an Aaron Jones owner myself, it's so frustrating just because it's going to be a couple weeks. Now you're looking at playoffs. Are you going to start him? It's super inconsistent. But with that being said, A.J. Dillon, again, led the team in carries because of that. 14 carries for 29 yards with a couple receptions in there. Receiving wise, man, this kid, Jayden Reed, is really, really good. I think he's the best receiver out of the group. 4 for 46 and a touchdown. And then he hit a carries, which led us for a touchdown. It was like a 1 carry for 40 yards and a touchdown. He is electric on the field. I think he should get the ball more in his hands because he does help out that offense. Romeo Doubs, I think, is a really, really good complimentary too. 5 catches, 53 yards and a touchdown. Christian Watson did have 1 catch for a touchdown, but other than that, I'm telling you guys, I know you see that, it's impressive, but 4 targets is what's going to get the job done. Dontavian Wicks had more targets, Romeo Doubs had more targets, and Jayden Reed had more targets. Again, I don't think Christian Watson's worth owning. I think you can still safely drop him or just put him on your bench and forget about it. Until you see some consistency, it's not worth it. Luke Musgrave, I was really high on this week. Unfortunately, just didn't come to fruition. 4 catches for 28 yards, 6 targets though. He's right there with all the other guys. It just didn't happen. So nothing really to take away from this game. Just super frustrating for Justin Herbert not to get this W because, man, he did everything in his power to have this team get a win. They just couldn't even help him out. On to the next game. Arizona goes into Houston, 16-21. Houston takes the dub. This is a game that C.J. Stroud looked like a rookie. And what I mean by that is that, you can see his numbers here. 27 for 37, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he had 3 picks, and they were just really, really bad picks. So this looked like a rookie game for him. Still impressive nonetheless, with only 2 touchdowns, 320 yards, over 300 yards as a rookie quarterback. Devin Singletary, still with Dameon Pierce being out, you can definitely start him. He is getting all the carries, 22 carries, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Again, C.J. Stroud's not really looking at his running back. He's looking down the field to throw the ball, so he's not checking down very rarely. So don't have to worry about the receiving game. And then Tank Dell, man, this kid is impressive. 5'10", 165 pounds, but 8 catches, 149 yards and a touchdown. This kid is really good. Nico Collins with Noah Brown being out, back to his old self, reliable like wide receiver 2 numbers, 7 catches for 65 yards. You'll take that any day of the week in PPR. And then Dalton Schultz saved you. Caught 1 pass for like over 20 yards, and no one really touched him. He just slid right into the end zone. So saves you the day for a touchdown. You take what you can get. On Arizona side, Kyler Murray looks like he's back. 20 for 30, 214 yards. 1 touchdown, a couple carries on the ground, 7 for 51. So again, you're really excited with it. You waited for really long, and he is now looking like a very reliable starter for fantasy. James Conner, again, 14 carries, 62 yards. He just needs to get down the goal line and get a touchdown down there, and you're super excited. Just unfortunate, just not really getting receiving work, whatever the case may be. Rondale Moore leads this team in receiving yards. I'm sorry, no, Greg Dortch does. My apologies, but Rondale Moore led the team for fantasy-wise for wide receivers. He just had one great catch for 48 yards and a touchdown. Greg Dortch had 6 for 70. Hollywood Brown has been a letdown with Kyler. I thought with Kyler coming back, he would find himself and be relevant. 2 catches for 18 yards isn't getting it done. It's just so unfortunate. And then Trey McBride, who everyone was hoping for to be something. Again, 5 catches for 43 yards. That was not terrible. It's just not what you were hoping for from last game. Nothing else really on this side. You can start Kyler Murray, though, going forward, and I have no issues with that. Again, another divisional game, just a complete blowout. Tennessee going into Jacksonville, 14-34. Trevor Lawrence looked really good this game, man. He needed this game. It was a bounce back game for him. He had 2 touchdowns on the ground, and he also threw for 2 touchdowns, 260 yards, so 4 touchdowns in total. ETN has been not really utilized in the past couple weeks, and whatever the case may be, he's faced 2 really good run defenses in San Francisco and Tennessee. So I expect him to improve going forward. 14 carries, 52 yards. You're not really excited. He's still one of the best running backs of the year. Going into Houston and Cincy and Cleveland, it's going to be tough. So just keep that eye on that. Receiving wise, man, Calvin Ridley had himself a game. 7 for 103 and 2 touchdowns. If you didn't start him, it's unfortunate. I had no choice in one of my leagues, so it's really unfortunate to see him on your bench with that many points, but it is what it is. And then Christian Kirk, I don't know. I mean, Calvin was just open all day, so Christian Kirk was just kind of getting the back pedals of it. 3 for 48. Again, not terrible, but, for where you probably took him in PPR leagues, it's just important. And then Evan Ingram, again, 4 for 29. Nothing crazy. It's unfortunate. On the Tennessee side, though, Will Levis is very interesting because we saw the lights out game against Atlanta and thought okay, wow, this is going to be a good quarterback. And he just, he's not playing well, man. He's really not. And 13 for 17, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, this all came when they were down by at least 20 of those touchdowns, mind you. Granted, he is much better than Ryan Tannehill, so I will give credit when it's due. But I don't see him being a viable fantasy starter moving forward, if that makes sense. And then again, Derrick Henry, super frustrating. 10 carries, 38 yards. But when you're stuffed, your team's down, he's not going to be utilized. We've all seen this before. It's unfortunate. I mean, Tajay Spears, even when he's being utilized in the passing game, Will Levis isn't really using him. 2 receptions. So it is unfortunate. And then if you did start DeAndre Hopkins, he saved you with a 1 big catch for a touchdown. So 4 for 59 and a touchdown. Again, there is some, optimism with Chigokonkwo being, maybe a viable tight end starter. It's just not the case. He's not really utilizing it. And then I also told you about Kyle Phillips. Again, 1 catch for 10 yards isn't getting it done either. So it's unfortunate. But I think, again, DeAndre Hopkins and Derrick Henry, the only guys who really, really want to start from the Tennessee side. And that's kind of, even DeAndre Hopkins is more of a wide receiver 2-3 flex play, and then Derrick Henry's your RB1 in most leagues. So on to the next game, we had the Vegas going into Miami. It was a lot closer than it seemed. Kind of interesting game, 13-20 for Miami. I'll start with the Raiders side. Aiden O'Connell, again, 3 interceptions. Just, he's a rookie. It's what you expected. They're not hoping for anything out of him to be, this saving grace. I just think the team was over Jimmy Garoppolo. But he did throw a touchdown today, so for all the Devontae Adams owners, you're super excited. Josh Jacobs, though, 14 carries, 39 yards. They were trying to get him going. It just, Miami was stopping at everything they could throw at them. But like I said, Devontae Adams, 7 for 82 and a touchdown. You're really excited because, you've been missing him and all the points he usually gets you. So Jacoby Myers, nothing really exciting there. 4 for 49. I probably lean on the side of, with things are going with the Vegas Raiders, I don't know if I want to start him or just keep him as your flex plays. If you could pivot elsewhere, that's what I would do. Then again, nothing out of the tight end spot. Michael Mayer, 4 catches, 46 yards. On to Miami side, 2 had a really rough game. He had a fumble loss. He had a pick. It was a really bad pick, but 28 for 39, 325 yards and 2 touchdowns. Good numbers for fantasy. Out of the running back room, it's really unfortunate because we were all excited for Devon Achane, but re-aggravated his knee injury and gets out of the game, and that's his day. So ends the day with 1 reception for 4 yards and 1 carry for 1 yard. It's unfortunate, and it sounds like, I don't know, because their next game is on Friday and it's against the Jets, so I really don't know if they're going to trot him out there. They've been really protective of him. And then with that being said, they brought in Salvon Ahmed to pitch in for him, and he got injured. So Raheem Mostert was really the only guy, 22 for 86 with 1 catch, only 9 points in the day for Raheem, but it seems like he's going to be the lone running back for this next game. So for all Raheem Mostert owners, you're really excited for that. And then Tyreek Hill just does Tyreek Hill things, man. 10 for 146 and a touchdown. And he even missed, I want to say, at least a quarter and some change from this game. They thought he hurt his hand, was potentially broken, came back, was perfectly fine. Jalen Waddle has been very frustrating as fantasy for where you took him. Probably took him near the back of the second, early third, and he has just been a letdown for you. He's wide receiver 33 on the year. 4 catches, 55 yards. It's just not what you were expecting this year. It's unfortunate. You still got to keep starting him because you just know the potential's there. Again, nothing out of the tight ends for Miami. Miami doesn't utilize tight ends like you think they would, but there's no playmaker there for them. Probably the biggest upset of the week, New York Giants 31, Washington Commanders 19. Commanders lost me a ton of money today. Tommy DeVito had himself a game, man. 18 for 26, 246 yards and 3 touchdowns, man. He was just throwing it to the open man, and they were taking off. Saquon Barkley had himself a game too. That being said, 14 carries, 83 yards with 4 receptions for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Saquon saved you for most people. Again, out of the wide receivers, Darius Slayton was heavily utilized, 4 catches, 82 yards and a touchdown, and then got injured. After that, there's no one else really on the New York side. I know there's a little bit of hype for Daniel Bellinger because of last week getting, leading the team and catches and everything else like that, but just back to where he was. 3s all around, 3 for 38, nothing crazy. On to the Commanders side, Sam Howell had a really, really rough game, and he's very inconsistent, but there's enough that you can see where he can be an NFL starter. 31 for 45, 255 yards, 1 touchdown, but 3 picks. It was just rough for him. And he did have 3 carries for 35 and a touchdown, so that did save you for most people. It's just rough, man. I don't know what it is. The Giants were just after him. The D-line gave him no time to think, and he just was throwing really bad balls. Brian Robinson with Antonio Gibson being injured today definitely was utilized more. 17 for 73 with 7 catches and 58 yards. So he definitely can be a receiving back. That really wasn't his style coming out of Alabama. Very interesting that he has that in his repertoire. So it's really nice to see that. And then again, out of the wide receivers, Jahan Dotson, 3 for 23 and a touchdown, which saved him. Terry McLaurin, which led the team in targets, but 5 for 43, just isn't going to get it done. Then Logan Thomas had a fumble, but he would have been 5 for 58, which would have been terrible for most tight ends. Again, it was just a bad game. Washington was playing from behind the entire time and just couldn't get anything going for them. I believe they have a Thursday night game following next week, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. On to the next game, Tampa 14, San Francisco 27. Tampa Bay side, Baker played okay. San Francisco's got a really good front, has a really, really good defense, man, and they were just smothering him this game. 29 for 45, 246 and a tug with 1 interception and a fumble lost. Again, I don't know if you were trying to start him this week. This is one guy I would not start against San Francisco. Trying to avoid any quarterbacks you can against them. They have a really, really good defense. But Rachaad White, 9 carries, 3 yards. He's definitely utilized in the passing game with 6 for 28. So save your day with a touchdown in there. And then Mike Evans is the only guy I really want to start from Tampa going forward because Chris Godwin he's just not getting it done. 6 for 39, and this is what he's really been all season. 5 for 51, 5 for 58, 3 for 32, 1 really good week, 8 for 114, 674, 664, 5. It's just nothing. I mean, wide receiver 38, he has been a really big letdown for probably where you took him. It's unfortunate, but I just don't see how you can start him going forward. And then Cade Otton, 4 for 49, not terrible, but you can do a little better on that side. And then San Francisco, man, Brock Purdy had a really good game, 21 for 25, 333 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 carries, 14 yards. I think he had a perfect passer rating in this game, not mistaken. But again, definitely utilize him, definitely start him. Christian McCaffrey got a touchdown today. So 21, 78 with 5 catches, 25 yards and a tug. Back to CMC numbers. Wide receiver wise, Brandon Ayuk had a career game with the reception for the yards. He had 5 catches for 156 yards and a touchdown. I still think he's the better receiver out of him and Debo. But Debo, again, nothing crazy, especially what you're hoping for from last week, 3 for 63. This is probably where you see him be, usually maybe with a touchdown with a carry in there. But that's where I typically expect him to be this season. Tight end wise, George Kittle, what is that? I'm sorry, 8 for 89 and a touchdown. I mean, tight end 4 of the year. He's been on a burner lately, man. He's definitely being utilized a lot more in the passing game. So he was one of those guys that you held on to, and he's panning out right now. So no real injuries except for San Francisco. They did lose their all-pro safety Tufunga. Rashad White juked him out, and he tore his ACL. It's really unfortunate, but man, it sucks for them. On to the next game. New York Jets 6, Buffalo 32. This is what you probably expected all season with Zach Wilson playing quarterback. They finally made the change. It was too late. They did go to Tim Boyle in the end of the game, but he didn't do anything better either. He had to pick himself. So really don't want to talk about Zach Wilson's numbers because it's just not really worth talking about. Breece Hall was the only good bright spot of this entire Jets offense. 10 carries, 23 yards, but it was the receptions, 5 for 15, a touchdown. Israel Abanikanda got some work, but nothing crazy. And then Dalvin Cook is just irrelevant if you have him on your team for whatever reason. Maybe as a handcuff, you can still cut him. There's no need to have him. Garrett Wilson, 2 catches for 9 yards and a fumble loss. I mean, it's just, Xavier Gibson fumbled. I mean, Alan Lazard had no catches. This is really, really bad as a team. And I don't know what they're going to do on the Jets side. I don't know if they're going to, Robert Saleh made the comments at the end of the game. He's not sure what he's going to do because he said no one played well, which is true. So as you know, someone who owns Garrett Wilson in a lot of leagues, it's unfortunate, but you probably still have to trot him out there just because of where you took him. And regardless, he still puts up decent numbers with really terrible quarterback play. But on Buffalo's side, Josh Allen had a really good game. Don't really know if it's because of Joe Brady, regardless of that, but when the Jets just turn over the ball a lot, you're going to have the ball in your hands. 20 for 32, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns with 5 carries and 15 yards. He did have a pick, but I'm not going to hold that against him. It was the end of the game, or not the end of the game. It was the end of the half, and he was trying to throw it for a touchdown to the Hail Mary. It just didn't work out. So, again, but his turnover streak does continue. James Cook finally found the end zone. He actually was as a goal line back-esque, I would say. 17 for 73, 3 catches, 29 yards, and a touchdown. This has been another good game for James Cook. I think it's back-to-back. I think they're going to start to utilize him more and more. Latavius Murray wasn't usually utilized in the goal line, so he was 10 for 35. They did use Ty Johnson in this game. It was really weird. He had 3 receptions, 47 yards, and a touchdown. I don't know what's going on there, but James Cook should be utilized a lot more. Maybe they're trying to, just have, change the pace backs, whatever the case may be. But it's really weird. I was surprised to see him on the field. Khalil Shakir had himself a game, 3 catches, 115 yards, and one of those came from like a 70-yard reception, something like that, and that's what basically sealed the deal for this game. And then Stephon Diggs has another, I would say, letdown spot. I mean, against Denver, he went 3 for 34. Today he was 4 for 27, but again, Buffalo was up, so really can't be upset with the production of what you got from everyone else. And then Dalton Kincaid, 6 for 46. You'll take that any day of the week for where you probably picked him up a waiver wire. And again, he's slowly creeping up. He's now tight end 11. And that's even with not really getting the full work as a tight end. So I expect to see the numbers keep improving. On to one of the final afternoon games. Seattle 16, Rams 17. Geno Smith did get injured. He came back into the game. They're still talking like he's still injured and not sure if he'll play next week. He was 22 for 233 yards and a touchdown. Drew Lock did come in, but again, he was awful. No real reps and everything else like that. Threw a really bad pick, which caused the Rams to get the win. Kenneth Walker does have an oblique strain, and it does sound serious. So for all Ken Walker owners, I would definitely try to go pick up Zach Charbonnet because he is now the back to own. 15 carries, 47 yards, 6 receptions, 22 yards. Sounds like Ken Walker's going to be missing some time, so Zach Charbonnet will be the workhorse back, so to speak. And then again, other receivers, DK saved you with a touchdown, 5 for 94 and a tug. You've needed this from him. He's been, I would say, lackluster past. Oh, sorry, my apologies. The week before against Baltimore, but again, it's what you needed out of him. Tyler Lockett, 5 for 51. Jackson, again, he's just slowly starting to creep into the offense. 3 for 40. Until Tyler Lockett goes, I think JSN's going to be right where he's at, where you see his numbers. I don't see anything else improving. Again, Seattle, Geno Smith doesn't really utilize his tight ends. Matt Stafford, not a great game. It just wasn't anything crazy from him. Darrell Henderson, though, this is the last week. Definitely, say goodbye because once he comes back, once their other running back comes back, he is gone. 6 carries for 1 yard, 4 catches for 28 yards. 1 carry did result to a touchdown. Puka Nacua looked great, and it's because, unfortunately, Cooper Kupp did get injured. He aggravated his ankle, and I'm not sure how long he's going to be out for, but if Cooper is out, you start Puka because when he is off the field, he is very productive. 5 for 70 and a touchdown. If he's missing, definitely fire Puka because Stafford will hone in on one guy, and that one guy right now is Puka Nacua. So, again, no tight ends. Again, the Rams don't utilize Tyler Higbee. In the final game, which came down to a nail-biter, Minnesota 20, Denver 21. Josh Dobbs, if you were starting him, wasn't a great game. He had a fumble loss and a pick, so just a little bit skewed on the numbers. But 20 for 32, 221 yards, 1 touchdown, 8 carries for 21 yards. So if you're hoping for that, him to utilize his legs more, he was very much kept in the well this entire game, where Denver was trying to make sure they did not get outside of the box to keep going. For all those that were hoping for Alexander Madison to miss this game because of concussion, didn't happen. He cleared concussion protocol, which is crazy. 18 carries for 81 yards. He did fumble once, but Ty Chandler, if you did pick him up and completely forgot about it, you were A-okay. 10 carries, 73 yards with 4 catches, 37 yards is perfectly acceptable for where you picked him up off a waiver wire hopeful. Receiving wise, this is not a really good receiving game for Jordan Addison, Powell, J. Osborne. 3 for 44 for Jordan Addison. It's kind of a letdown game. Pretty much was locked up by Patrick Surtain the entire game. And then TJ Hawkinson was, I guess you can say, a letdown too. 4 for 55. Josh Oliver was utilized a lot in this game. It was really weird. He had a touchdown, 4 for 47. I don't expect him to be anything other than just a one fluke game because TJ Hawkinson, as we know, is their guy, just to happen to be a game script kind of thing. So wouldn't look anything else past into it. And then again, man, Russell Wilson had himself a decent game. Got to give credit where it's due. 27 for 35, 259 yards, touchdown. Russell's he hasn't been bad. He's at fringe QB1, QB2 right now. He's been really protective of the ball, not really throwing a lot of picks, but he's not really putting up insane numbers for you to be willing to start him over certain guys. Out of the running back room, Javonte Williams was locked up this entire game, 11 for 37, 2 receptions for 16 yards. Samaje Perine led him out of the fantasy group, but that's because he was utilized in the passing game for 7 receptions for 60 yards. Out of the receivers, Cortland Sutton, again, has been, I would say, Russell Wilson's primary target, 4 for 66 and a touchdown, a game-winning touchdown, I should say, too. Jerry Jeudy has stone hands, man. He had a wide-open touchdown, and he just couldn't catch it. 5 for 58. Steve Smith said he's a jag. He's just a guy. I don't really expect any flashy numbers from him. Cortland Sutton will be the guy who's going to get all the work. Nothing else out of the tight end. So that's all I have, guys. The next game we have is for Monday night. We have Philly versus Kansas City. I'm really excited for this game. A lot of us are. It's a Super Bowl rematch. So if you guys have any questions or comments, some Monday Night Miracles, I'd love to hear about it. Comment below. If you guys could help subscribe, like this video, comment anything, any feedback, I'll definitely take it. But until next time, guys, I will see you after the Monday night game.